Hello. I'd like to share a brief thought with you on Good Friday 2020. Good Friday is a day where we remember. We remember the horrors that befell the Savior of the world, the horrors that made the hope of Easter possible. We remember and we reflect. And let's be honest, this Easter season, it's just going to be different, isn't it? We're experiencing a new darkness in a very real way. We're separated. We call it social distancing, but we're separated, feeling isolated. Some of us feeling hopeless, maybe even a little bit depressed. You see, Christians all over the world are accustomed to meeting in church buildings to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, the hope of Easter. But this Easter season, there's going to be no physical gatherings, no extended family meals. Our world is just different right now, a little bit darker. So maybe, just maybe, we can use our extra time to make this the best Good Friday ever. Maybe, just maybe, our current circumstances can help us focus on the real meaning of the Easter season. Maybe we can more fully realize that our church buildings are just that, buildings. I really love the visual aid that God provided for us on the original Good Friday. Matthew tells us that the moment that Jesus died, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from the top to the bottom. This curtain designated the most holy place on the entire earth, the Holy of Holies, at the very core of the temple. This was the area that represented God's presence on the earth. The curtain separated the most holy place from the rest of the temple, where people could actually congregate. The curtain provided a physical separation between God's place and the places where people lived. On the very first Good Friday, Matthew tells us this curtain was torn from top to bottom. From the top, signifying, I believe, that God did it. But what was God trying to teach us? What was He trying to tell us? I think God is teaching us that the most significant transition of all of history had just occurred. No more was God going to be confined to a building when in the presence of sinful humans. No more is a single holy man required to go through an elaborate purification ritual before he could briefly enter the presence of God. I think God is telling us those days are over, beginning now. People now have a personal pathway to God. In short, on the original Good Friday, God chose to pour out His wrath on Jesus. And after the wrath of God was satisfied, God left the temple. God has left the building. On this day, sacred places were replaced by sacred people. On this day, God left the most holy place on all the earth to indwell the hearts of believers. The events of Easter weekend make it possible for all people to establish a personal and a deep relationship with God. The death of Jesus on a Friday, followed by the physical resurrection of Jesus on Sunday, make it possible for you and for me to be reconciled with God. We simply need to accept that as true and place our faith and trust in Him. So on Good Friday 2020, a Good Friday like no other, let's remember that if you've placed your faith and trust in Him, the Spirit of God now lives not in the church building, but in you. In you. Don't miss this. The hope of the world resides in you. That for me is what Easter is all about. So be encouraged. And I hope you have the most blessed Easter ever.